Welcome back, guys. So that's the second video in the series. In the last video, we downloaded the installer from Microsoft side now, and I've already installed Oracle VirtualBox on my machine. Now, what I'm going to do in this video to just show you how we can set up the virtual machine using Oracle VM VirtualBox Manager. That's the interface that once you install VirtualBox on your machine, then you can launch the manager and start creating the virtual machines. The virtual machine creation is pretty simple and straightforward because we are not setting up any private network using the VirtualBox. So the work we were gonna do, it's a single server based environment. So that's why it's going to be quite easy in compared to setting up as part of the existing domain. So we'll start with simple and then we slowly go towards the complex environment. So let's start, and let me click new because we can start a new virtual machine. And what you can see it by default, it is showing a default location, which I can change. And because I know I have a work folder, so what I'm going to do, just give a name it later. So I have work, and in work, I have VM. And in the VM, I want to create my virtual machine. And I'm just going to give it a name, sit drive db03. All right. If you have multiple version of Windows running, or if you have multiple version of SQL Server are running on your computer, on your on your network, so you can specify those as well. So for me, it's more like the naming convention I've used in my previous roles. So I would try to stick to this. Now, the next thing you can see, we have different operating system. In other videos, I have actually showed the installation process for installing the Ubuntu Linux. If you are interested, I'm going to put the link in there and you can use it. In the later videos, we're gonna configure the Linux server as well using the VirtualBox. And why I'm configuring everything through that VirtualBox environment, because once you learn and understand how you can work with the local virtual machine, the difference is going to be the environment. Internal environment is remains same. The only thing that instead of using locally, you're going to get it from the cloud once we shift towards the Azure or AWS cloud, and we'll see similar machines over there, right? So that's one of the major difference. Obviously, once you install locally, it's not going to cost you anything, except that obviously you have 120 days 160 days license, 6 days are 80. Yeah, 180 days license, not 120. So 180 days are more than enough for us to learn SQL Server 22 and Windows Server 22, right? So that's the only limit you have. Beside that, you're gonna have all the features available as part of the trial version. Obviously, you cannot use it for any production or business use, but beside that, you can get all the features and the option which are available as part of Windows Server 22, right? In Azure or in AWS, obviously, as soon as you spin up any virtual machine, the cost clock start ticking, and with every minute and every second, it will charge you, even if it's a cents, but obviously it is costing you a small fortune, right? So if you want to avoid it, especially while you are learning, so that's a very handy environment to set it up on your local system. So let me select the Microsoft Windows, and I'm going to, so now if I just open the next box, you can see it has filtered automatically, and I can only see Windows 3.1. I do believe most of you don't know Windows 3.1 is the very old version. I was fortunate to see it, but anyway, that has gone ages ago. So what we are going to do, we are going to select. So now you can see we don't have Windows 2022 available as part of the option, but that doesn't mean that you cannot install, right? Because these are just the the configuration settings which are available, but obviously we are going to configure by ourselves. So these are more like the names which are available in the market. But if your version that you are trying to install is not listed in here, you can simply come in and you can select other Windows 64-bit, allocate a RAM. So I would recommend that at least you have 8 gig on your machine free for the Windows operating server operating system, because it is handsome to work with the Windows as well as SQL Server all together, right? Because if you just want to test the Windows Server 22, I think 4 gig is enough. But obviously, we are going to install SQL Server. We are going to install SQL Server services. So 8 gig is the minimum I would recommend that you might have. You will be surprised that in the Azure environment, the free instance that you get, I think it has only 2 gig space, and I'm not sure how much resources you are getting as part of free virtual machine, right? So that if you look at carefully, actually you can just play and get the flavor of running a virtual machine in Azure, but beside that you're not gonna get something really working with these free services, right? So that's why setting up a local virtual environment will help you to gain that experience. Now, let me just allocate, because on this machine I have 32 gig available. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to allocate 10 gig out of my 32 gig to this virtual machine, and I'm going to create obviously the virtual hard disk as part of this machine. And I think I can't think 20 gig is enough for me, because I'm going to install a SQL Server. So I'm just increasing it up to 100 gig. You can see the available capacity is up to 2 terabytes. So make sure that your host machine has enough disk space. So once you create a virtual machine and you start working, obviously it's going to be dynamic allocation. It's not like it's going to reserve your storage space upfront. It will allocate a very minor chunk based on the Windows installation, that how much space is required to install the operating system. But then as soon as we progress further over the time, we install more softwares, we copy files, or the data files increase, that start consuming the space on the local storage, right? So do a small calculation and make sure you have enough space available, because you don't want to create a lot of paging or contention between your host system and the virtual system, just because of the lack of space available from your local storage, right? So that's another factor. I have enough space, so that's why I can allocate 100 gig to my virtual machine. And you can see I have a click on dynamically allocated. There are multiple format. We are going to stick with the default one, which is VDI. That works for us. And now, as soon as you have seen, I have selected the operating system type, version, give it a name, select the location where my VM is going to reside on my host operating system. And as soon as I select the storage option, the virtual machine creation process has done. So now remember, it has created the virtual machine template on my machine, but this machine is still empty. It is without any operating system. It's more like a skeleton. Now it is this skeleton is ready to host any operating system that we are going to install. But before doing it, we obviously need to select couple of configuration. So select the virtual machine which you have created. So you can see this virtual machine is coming in the last from the sequence DB03, and I'm going to hit settings. Now, as soon as I hit the setting, you can see Microsoft Windows has been selected and other Windows system, because I'm going to install Windows 2022. Advanced description, these are the basic. We are not going to change it. I just need to select check the the memory, which is good. Now, one of the important thing by default, it allocate one virtual CPU to my machine, which is not enough in most cases. And that's another factor why I was emphasizing to set up a local environment, guys, because that will help you to learn or execute some practical scenario while you are learning Windows 22 or the SQL Server 22 from the data and analytics process, because every data and analytic process requires heavy resources, or sometimes you need to run some complex job that are not aligned with the minimum resources which are coming as a free service, right? And one of the example is, like, you can see one CPU is not enough. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to allocate at least 3 CPU start, but I can obviously extend it up to 8. I'm not going to allocate 8 because then my host operating system might not have any CPU available for its own processing. So I can go, if I have 8 CPUs, I can go up to 6. So that's the max I can stretch out. But in this case, I believe, because I'm not going to straight away run any heavy duty system, so I think 3 CPUs are good for me. All right, so display wise, we are good. We are not going to touch anything. Storage, like I mentioned, you can see the disk which we have created is already there, but there's one thing which is missing, is the ISO file or the source system, where we need to get the binary file to install the operating system. If you remember, in the last video, we downloaded the ISO file from Microsoft website. And now what I'm going to do, so you can see that small blue icon that is representing the DVD drive. So you can now mount your drive, and then that drive is available as a boot source to your virtual machine once we spin it up. So you can see what I'm going to do. It can show you the option. You can directly mount your DVD drive, because in my machine, I already have the DVD drive. So you can see it is coming in here. It is also showing you the old ISO files, and you can see I've used these files in the past. So they are coming in the menu. But what I'm going to do, I'm just going to uh, click choose this file, and you can see now it is coming, and it is showing me all the soft operating system which are available. Let me just navigate to Windows, and that's my Windows Server 22, because in the last video, once I downloaded it, I have saved it to a particular location. So I just click on, so remember, click on choose a disk file, navigate to the folder where you have stored that ISO file, and select that file. And now, as soon as I click OK, that's gonna mount it. It's available as a boot of ISO image to boot my virtual machine. We're gonna see in a moment. Now, audio wise, let's leave it as it is. Network, like I mentioned, we are not building the network, but we can build a very strong private network using the VirtualBox, where the virtual machine is gonna talk to each other. But in order to do that exercise, I would prefer to use the Azure environment, because Azure obviously provide better capabilities to spin up the virtual networks and building the services who can communicate through these virtual private networks. But that's a separate topic, right? So let's leave it as it is. We are not going to touch anything. One thing we are going to do at this stage, that we are going to mount a folder, and you can see as soon as you open that. So what's going to do, it's going to actually make the host file available or host folder available to your virtual environment, which is very handy, because sometimes we want to share the file between our host operating system and the guest operating system, and this share folder does the job. Like, it will help you to mount the folder from your host machine to your guest machine or your virtual machine. And then if you have any file, so I'm going to use a lot of files from my host operating system which are available to my new virtual machine through this option. So let me click others, and what I can do, I'm just going to use my work folder. Let me click select, so you can see I use the C:/work, and this folder is going to available on my virtual machine as a work folder. I'm going to show you over there once we finish the installation. I'm going to click on auto mount, so it will be auto mount. I'm not going to click read only, otherwise from the guest environment, I'm not able to write anything back on my host machine. So make sure if you want to just make a read-only folder, then this option needs to be checked. Otherwise, if you want to keep the sharing in bidirectional, then please don't select this one because it will make the host folder as a read-only in your virtual environment. Now, I think we are all good. So hit OK and hit OK. And let me just start the virtual machine. I have a small driver problem, so that's why I need to start as a headless, but you can just hit start once you install it, and it's going to actually start your virtual machine. So just give it a couple of seconds. It is starting it, and we're going to then show it on our screen. So you will see, let me take it out from screen 2 to screen 1. There we go. So you can see the virtual machine is automatically booting from the ISO file that we have mounted it as a part of the initial configuration. So guys, we are ready to install the Windows 22 Server 22 on this virtual machine. Hope you understand the whole process, how you can configure and how you can mount it. So we are ready to run the show. So I'm gonna do it in the next video. However, if you have any question, please put in your comments. More than happy to answer. Otherwise, I'm gonna see you in the next one. Stay tuned.